This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening, who are the newsmakers, what's in store for the future. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, this is John Bailey, and this is White Plains Week. And good evening, voters everywhere. It's coming up on the Democratic primary in Westchester County and White Plains. And I'm joined by Jim Benerofe, the Dean of Journalism in White Plains, and Peter Katz, the anchor for all seasons, in another one of those wild weeks in White Plains. So let's go to the headlines. How wild was it?
And here are the headlines for September 9th, 2017. League of Women Voters Candidates Forum in White Plains draws 160. Denies photography and video coverage. City and County Democratic primary is Tuesday, September 12th. Polls open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. If you do not know where you vote in White Plains, call the city clerk, 422-1227, and give them your home address. Incumbent council candidates soften development support slightly. Democrat council challengers hold cities should support neighborhoods, stop building luxury housing for persons who are not here, and support residents who are already here. Mayor Roach defends pace of White Plains growth. Lacuna maintains it is not well planned and consists of spot zoning. First County Executive Campaign signs appear in White Plains. Ken Jenkins and George Latimer hold forum in Chappaqua and agree to support the other, whoever loses in their primary. Governor Cuomo condemns President Trump denial of amnesty for Dreamers. Children born here who are of illegal immigrants as parents. We will have another edition of Trump the President with Peter Katz. The Common Council approves 60% of median income for affordable housing in proposed broadstone development at Mamaroneck Avenue and Post Road. Groundbreaking ceremony at Church and Barker for nursing facility to be built by Congress companies. Monday, September 11th, is the 16th observance of the 9/11 memorial, 7 a.m. 7 p.m. at the Kensico Dam.
Thank you, Jim. And let's go to the Rolo Newsreel March of Time. And you are looking at the check-in table at the League of Women Voters Candidates Forum, which took place Thursday night. And at this point, we are 3 days to the Democratic primary, September 12th. But what caught my eye, which I was over there to kind of get some good pictures of the atmosphere, and this sign appeared on the table. It says, I'll read it for you, League of Women Voters rules prohibit the taking of photos, video, and or audio recordings.
That might as well say, news organizations, go away. We don't want you here.
Yes, we are. And it says...
It seems very...
I thought they were... Yes.
It's very uncharacteristic for the League of Women Voters to take a position like that. Doesn't make sense. I know in the past, League of Women Voters debates not only have been covered by news media and photographed and videoed by news media, but also carried on television.
This is unprecedented.
It used to be recorded and played back on White Plains cable, among other places.
Right, and particularly when it was in the library.
Yeah, so, you know, the question, you know, what is this all about?
Did cable access do it? Was cable access there?
No. Cable access, which we are on, asked if they wanted coverage, they say, and the mayor's office wanted coverage too, but no. League of Women Voters says, no, we don't need you.
It just seems anathema to everything the League of Women Voters stands for, which is
information.
The democratic process,
yes.
The sharing of information.
All those good things, or they used to be good things.
You know, one would wonder what would happen if someone from the news media showed up and just started photographing this, taking video. Would they throw out the news person? Would we then have? Well,
I would not be here. I'd probably be arrested.
Would we then have have a case which is something that the ACLU would be delighted to become involved in?
But the League of Women Voters has to make clear why they decided not to allow this sort of stuff. And they say it, they're rules. So who made these rules up? They're bad rules. It's not what the League of Women Voters has traditionally stood for.
And not only stood for, but what they have allowed in the past at past debates.
Yes, and so that is really the shocker of the week. I mean, I was dumbfounded. Why would they want that? I mean,
don't know.
Right. So basically, since I don't have photography of it, I have to tell you that the forum did not go off too well. There was a lot of technical problems with the microphones. And also, the mayor held his own very nicely in his answers to the questions that were posed by the league and also persons submitting questions. And he really defended the way the city is going. However, Milagros Lacuna, of course, disputes the fact that it's going that well. But, however, she was not as effective in getting across those points, in my opinion, because of the time limits.
So they had time limits on the answers.
About a minute each.
Was this really a joint appearance, or, John, in the format, did they allow the candidates to actually debate one another?
No, it was just I answer, you answer, end of question. They never do that.
You know what's really interesting about this whole thing? The fact that they denied photo and video and that it's not going to be on cable access. Only the 160 people that were there are going to know about it.
Right, exactly. Well, I will write something about it, but you know, somebody has to write something, because believe me, the regular media is not covering this primary the way they should at all. The city primary.
Actually, my sense is that as primaries go, there's been a good deal of literature. There's been some interest in it.
Yeah.
But again, what we typically see in primaries is what we typically see in school board elections here in White Plains. You know, which is that very few people show up. You know, and would I be wrong in suggesting that maybe 1,000 people are going to go vote in this thing?
If we have 1,000 votes, that's better than 100. Right. Let's put it that way. But this is the latest round of literature. At the top, the mayor continues saying that White Plains is moving in the right direction, and then the literature from the Lacuna campaign says vacant, a photo bunch of empty storefronts, and that was pretty powerful answer. So it depends on whether you think the glass will be full by and by because we're doing all right, or whether the glass is going to be empty unless you do something to fill it. And during the debate, this Lacuna was down on parking, etc. Now, council, Justin Brash, I thought, did extremely well. I would have taken a picture of him, but they didn't let me.
He's a Democratic City Committee
Yes, that's
nominee.
right. And he is running on Mayor Roach's ticket, along with John Kirkpatrick and John Martin. Now, the most significant thing to me, Peter, at the end, they asked the big question, what do you think is the most pressing problem facing White Plains? And Michael Craver said it's definitely building luxury housing for people who aren't here yet, and basically not concentrating on the people who are here, i.e. the neighborhoods. And this is the Saad Siddiqui's major point too. But both of the young challengers are very intense and serious. But
actually,
looking
John,
good.
what's
Craver is a good articulate guy.
What I think is really significant here, in what happens Tuesday, is that the primary may actually decide who is going to be the next mayor and who are going to be the next council people. Because if Milagros and her council candidates win, they of course will have the major lines on the ballot. Democrat,
right. The
Republican.
mayor will be on the, I think, working.
The mayor would be on.
Yeah,
but when this last happened, when the last was a mayoral primary, way back, when Al Del Vecchio was challenged by Michael Coffey.
You remember that?
Michael Coffey won the Republican line. Del Vecchio ran, but not on the major line, and lost. Cost him the office.
Yeah, and one other interesting point is that pressing issues, John Martin said, and this dumbfounded me too, he said the most pressing issue in White Plains is financing. Costs are going up, he says, that we have to deal with that, and that's what he is most concerned about, a real departure from the city that is going well. Right?
What I want to know is, did you hear any promises we're not going to raise your property taxes?
No. But I mean, is that a signal? Is that a signal? Could be. And
so Tuesday.
Right. Tuesday,
September
6 a.m., 12
Democratic
p.m.
primary.
If you don't know what district you vote in or where you're going to vote, call the city clerk, 422-1227. Give them your address, and they will tell you. That's a great service. And hope you don't get swamped. Now, moving right along, the Democratic Council challengers mainly hold that the city should support neighborhoods and stop building at the present pace they are, just bringing in luxury housing, which I think is somewhat narrow. But in fact, there was never any discussion of the future. But anyway, it was great, and but it should have been televised, or at least allowed pictures be taken. Now, the first county executive signs appeared and there they are, Rob Astorino signs up in the north end of White Plains, and he also put out a robocall today calling everybody to the 9/11 observance and asking you to make a weekend of volunteering and volunteer at a volunteer festival at the county center. Do you want to find out more about this? You should call 948-4452. 948-4452.
And Astorino's opposition will be determined in the Tuesday primary.
Yes.
We have George Latimer running against Ken Jenkins in a Democratic primary, and that too seems to be heating up. There have been robocalls made, surveys have been taken. That'll be a very interesting one to see. They did at an appearance up County Chappaqua agree that whoever wins would support.
It'll be either I love you Ken or I love you George.
Losers, yeah.
Right. I think that's so touching, don't you?
Well, look, the Democratic Party has to figure out a way to get together at all levels, nationally and locally. So.
But Mr. Astorino is trying to stay above the fray, as incumbents do.
There are lots of frays.
And speaking of incumbents, the man who is perhaps the most incumbent person ever, and that is Governor Cuomo, and he spoke out furiously on President Trump's DACA decision this week. Peter.
Yeah, well, you know, when Cuomo presided Tuesday at the dedication of Riverbank Park in West Harlem to retiring Assemblyman Denny Farrell, his district includes parts of Harlem, he had some choice words for the Trump administration over their plan to start phasing out DACA. Ended entirely in 6 months if Congress doesn't come up with an alternative. The announcement this week was made by Attorney General Jeff Sessions. DACA, meaning Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, was put in place by the Obama administration to protect undocumented children who were brought into this country when they were young and have been meeting certain criteria for contributing to society, such as holding jobs, paying taxes, and abiding by the law.
President Trump is talking about DACA and rescinding DACA, which is just feeding the beast of bigotry red meat. That's all this is about. You want to talk about North Korea as a threat, and it is. I'll tell you another threat. It's racism. Because racism is a cancer in the body politic. It turns one cell against the other, and it starts the battle from within. And only Americans can defeat America. And these lines and these divisions and this racism and this bigotry is the greatest threat that this country faces. And New York's example is the exact opposite. We believe in diversity. We believe in welcoming people from all over the globe because we're not one religion, we're not one race, we're one idea. If you come here and you work with us, you join the family of New York, e pluribus unum, out of many one.
That's about the best thing he's ever said.
Even I was surprised at the intensity of that rhetoric.
Well,
you think
it was
he's
a
running
different
for
Cuomo.
something, perhaps on a national basis?
Yeah, I think he is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, he's the only one saying that.
But there were some statistics that were given that I forget whether, I think it was maybe 280 billion or 280 million, I don't remember which, over a 10-year period, if they eliminated DACA, the people that would be deported.
With a B. The DACA people make an incredible contribution to the economy.
And I mean, what do you do if they deport them? You give them back their taxes.
Yeah, that's an issue. That's an issue. Meanwhile, there's lots of issues this week on Trump, the president.
Indeed, indeed. When President Trump met with Amir al-Sabah of Kuwait at the White House on Thursday, the two posed for pictures. And then reporters who had been led into the room for a photo opportunity asked Trump about Hurricane Irma. Although he has claimed climate change is a hoax invented by the Chinese, he admitted we're seeing unprecedented intensity in this weather event.
Puerto Rico escaped. It could have been far worse. They really escaped the brunt, but it's heading right now, right directly into Florida. So hopefully it'll take a turn, go east and do it quickly. Right now it's not doing that. We are with the people of Florida, and as you know, the Virgin Islands got hit very hard, very, very hard. And we're finding out the kind of damage. It's actually, communication is actually difficult. We have people right now on the Virgin Islands, and we'll see how that is, but it's been hit very, very hard. I can say this, Florida is as well prepared as you can be for something like this. Now it's just a question of what happens. It's the largest hurricane they've ever seen coming out of the Atlantic, and the winds are the strongest, most importantly. This is the real problem. The winds are the strongest that they've ever seen in a hurricane coming from that region. So we're with everybody in Florida. We're working very hard. We have tremendous talent and really tremendously brave people to be there, and hopefully it's going to work out all right. We'll see over the next few hours.
Now, despite the comments on Thursday, he has given no indication of rethinking the policies that he's put in place to shrink important government departments which do work on the weather, such as the National Weather Service. President Trump made a deal with Democratic congressional leaders Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi to temporarily extend the debt limit and not default on what the country owes. Republicans were blindsided by this. Apparently, according to some of those in the room, the president did not negotiate. He capitulated to what the Democrats demanded. Donald Trump Jr. testified before staff of a Senate committee investigating the Russia connection. Reports say he finally was forced to admit there were at least 3 more contacts with the Russians that he had not reportedly disclosed earlier. His testimony lasted 5 hours. After months of denying it, Facebook has finally admitted that it sold a ton of advertising to the Russians during the campaign. They put up anti-Hillary and pro-Donald ads. Investigators have discovered that internet trolls, people and computers, which spread stories, which were used during the campaign, are based in St. Petersburg, Russia. It's reported that one of the companies involved in the trolling operations were also involved in doing the same thing in the Ukrainian elections, where Paul Manafort, former manager of the Trump campaign, consulted for the pro-Russian candidate. My goodness.
And he was never there, right? Isn't that what he originally said?
So the answer is, can you believe everything you see on Facebook? What's the answer?
Yes.
Yes, no, please.
No, but I mean, Facebook should be ashamed for doing that. It's unbelievable.
Plus the fact that they stonewalled and denied it.
Yes,
for
the
months.
denial is great. So, Mr. Zuckerberg,
I wonder if he'll be called to
do you have
testify.
any credibility? They should. They really should. I mean, come on. Everybody else.
You know, one thing, as we see all of this weather going on, one thing that's nice is that people, volunteers, businesses, organizations throughout the country, here in Westchester, are gaining credibility in their pure efforts to do good. Locally, many businesses and organizations have been involved in efforts to help victims of Hurricane Harvey and the flooding in Texas. They're certainly sure to see the same level when Irma hits Florida, which is going to happen in about 2 days after we're done recording this show. The still unfolding devastation from Hurricane Irma has a path of destruction through the Caribbean, likely into Florida and Georgia. The enormous geographic size and incredible energy contained in these 2 storms that we've seen have been difficult to ignore, even if you're completely safe right here in Westchester, hundreds of miles away.
In Dobbs Ferry on Sunday morning, September 3rd, while the remnants of Hurricane Harvey were dropping rain on the Hudson Valley, an effort was underway to collect supplies to help some easily overlooked victims of that storm: pets. Food, bowls, collars, leashes, carrying cases, blankets, and more were being collected at the Edwards Dowdle Funeral Home in Dobbs Ferry. It was in cooperation with Furbridge, an Ardsley-based nonprofit active in preventing animal cruelty. Pet Goods on Central Avenue in Scarsdale donated more than 1,000 items and provided discounts to customers wishing to contribute. The funeral home provided breakfast for people dropping off supplies and also was handling the packing and shipment of the supplies to the SPCA in Texas. There are reports of thousands of dogs, cats, and other household pets in the Houston area alone being separated from their owners and being exposed to the sometimes toxic environment created by the storm and flooding. The owner and manager of the Edwards Dowdle Funeral Home is Joseph Casario.
It just seemed like nobody was helping the pets. It seemed like a lot of the Red Cross was involved with people, which is obviously a wonderful thing, but no one seemed to have taken the extra step, especially here locally in our river towns. So we just felt that it was our duty to jump in and give a hand.
And what sort of response have you been getting this morning?
Overwhelming. It was shared thousands of times on social media. We had 10,000, I believe, 500 views on Facebook alone, and phone hasn't stopped ringing. It's been overwhelming. I'm certainly interested in the people of Houston, and we've made our own donations to that effect as well. But in terms of pets, we feel that pets are part of our family. I'm a pet owner myself. I have two mini schnauzers in my home. Grew up with them all my life, always had dogs. And I just feel that pets are part of your family. And if you're going to take care of a family, why differentiate? Why not help everyone?
Yeah. Well, that is a very nice story, because that's always, animals can't help themselves in a disaster.
You know, the tradition in this country has been that when there is adversity, people display their best behavior.
Right. I mean, we may be seeing a turnaround by Mr. Trump on the DACA thing after that thing with Schumer. The question is, what did Mr. Schumer agree to do for this tremendous concession?
According to the reports, nothing.
Noblesse oblige. Of course, that's the way politics always works. You do something for the goodness of your heart, doesn't it? I'm just being cynical, but hey, I think we have a right to be cynical.
John Bailey being cynical?
Oh, no, perish the thought. But anyway, speaking of cynicism, speaking of news on the local level, there was a Common Council meeting this week on a project that we may have forgotten. It's the Broadstone, and the site is at the corner of East Post Road and Mamaroneck Avenue, and it is basically, as I recall it, it's about a 20-story mixed
yeah, that's one
use development.
As you can see from the graphic there, it winds its way, sometimes behind certain buildings.
Yes.
When it was announced, there was a big splash about it, and there were renderings, of this very large apartment building to be built, and some other buildings stuck back there, a garage being located on the site also. Yeah. And then didn't hear much about it. So,
right. Well,
so what if anything happened?
On Wednesday, or was it Tuesday? Well, anyway, this week the council voted to accept the Broadstone's proposal to include 60% of average median income as acceptable for affordable housing. They're going to build 434 residential units, 33 studios, 241 one-bedrooms, 9 one-bedrooms with den, well, very nice, 111 two-bedrooms, 18 two-bedrooms with den, and 22 three-bedrooms, and presumably at luxury rates.
You know, I think that's a good point, and I would say that this is a project that we should really support, because I like the idea that they're coming out with 3 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms with a den kind of thing. Mm-hmm. We need that. That's really where you're going to get some empty nesters, and that's aiming towards.
Makes it a little easier, to move from a 4 or 5 bedroom house into an apartment if it's got that 3rd bedroom, that little bit of.
Well, I have enough books that I could fill up.
That's
certainly
right.
A 1-bedroom.
But the raise in the median income is a really big deal, because that
what
makes
does that come out to in dollars and cents?
Oh, I think it's about 70,000 now. I think it was, but I'm not. We'll check on that. Now, groundbreaking over at Church and Barker for that long overdue project. It is now going to be constructed by the Congress companies, and this is a lot right here, Church and Barker, and it's going to be run by a tenant, Epic, and they're going to have one floor devoted to Alzheimer's patients' memory loss. And there's the mayor preparing for the groundbreaking. A little bit of good news. John Bailey, Peter Katz, Jim Benerofe. This is White Plains Week. Good night.
This has been White Plains Week. News and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.